Hello, I'm Chris Cleverdon, and I'm sitting with Betty Lehan and Bonnie Dittrich in Vida Holmes' lovely antique home. And with us is Vida Holmes and Priscilla Chick. We thought it would be interesting to interview them and find out a little bit about their lives and also a little bit about Norfolk history. So we're going to begin with, how many years have you both lived in Norfolk, and also what brought your families to Norfolk? Vida?
Well, I moved to Norfolk in 1949. I was 13. I moved from Rosendale, not too happily, because Rosendale was a pretty going place and Norfolk was nothing then. A few houses and a few farms. But I finally met some very nice friends that summer. My parents had bought a piece of land on Priscilla Avenue for a cottage and ended up deciding to build a house there. So once I started high school in Walpole High School, and I met Priscilla and a bunch of other girls, I never wanted to go back to Rosendale, and I don't ever go there.
Priscilla?
I had lived in Norfolk all my life. My parents met when my mother was 16 and she was living in Norfolk, and they met in Dedham at Mosley's on the Charles, which I don't believe is probably still there anymore.
It is.
And my mother had gone for a day of canoeing. Well, then they lived in Boston for a while and then moved to Norfolk. And I went all my years to school in Norfolk. It used to be Norfolk Center School, where the Federated Church is now. And then Norfolk did not have a high school, so we went to Walpole High School, and that's where I met Vida. I think I might have known you a little bit before that, but
We met in the summer going to a ball game on the school bus.
on the Walter T. Holmes school bus,
Right.
probably.
Yep.
And I lived here until I got married, and then I moved to, first of all, we lived in Walpole. My husband was in the Coast Guard when we got married, and I was in school at Children's Hospital, School of Nursing. And then we lived there in Walpole, and finally moved to Norfolk on North Street, 115. And
Where Danny Winslow.
where Danny Winslow lived for a while. And then, where did I go from there? Oh, I moved to Norwood, and when my children were small, and we lived in Norwood, and then my husband was transferred to New York, so I moved to Darien, Connecticut for a few years, and then when he was transferred back to, got another job and moved to, he was working in Rhode Island, we moved back into my parents' house, and that's on North Street too, also. And that's where we lived until 1996 when I retired to Cape Cod. I was on the school committee in Norfolk for a few years. Can't remember exact dates, but it was a wonderful experience and very involved in the town.
I wanted to ask a question about the house that you lived in. Was that in your family before your parents moved into it, or did
No.
they buy it?
No, they rented it for a few years, and then they bought it. Oh, I can't remember the exact year.
It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
but
It was
actually, my children didn't grow up there. When we were living in Norfolk before, one of my children, my oldest daughter, went to the school, which is the Alvin J. Freeman School, and first grade. But that's all. But we had lots of wonderful memories there with family reunions and and it was my desire to move there when my parents died. They died within a year of each other, so. But
Now, when you were going to elementary school, how many children were in your class?
Well, when we graduated from 8th grade, there were 12 of us. Vida's husband, John, John and I were in that class. There were 12 of us.
Wow.
I have
Well-
a picture somewhere. I'll try to find that picture of that 8th grade class.
It was great school. Great, memories from there. I also went to the City Mill School, which is, for a while, was the Legion, I believe, right, Vida?
Yep, right down the
And
street on
Where
Myrtle
was it?
Street.
Was it located near the paint?
No, it's right
Myrtle
down
Street,
here on
right down
Myrtle
here.
Street.
Okay.
I think it's a private residence now, isn't
It
it?
is.
Yeah, but it was it was a 2-room schoolhouse. I went to 5th grade there. Also, in the Senate school, we had 2 grades in one class, lots of times.
Mm-hmm.
First, 2nd and 3rd, and 6th and 7th.
Do you wonder how we all got an education?
Because they were small classes.
Then they're small
They
classes.
were very
and-
small classes.
And then you left, and because there was no high school in Norfolk, and you had to go to Walpole, and you went by school
But-
bus,
Right, 2 buses.
2 buses, and that was that owned by
One.
the Holmes at that time?
One
Well-
John's father owned and one
Chief Campbell, Chief of Police. And that's the bus I took.
Now, how big was your graduating class then in Walpole High School? Was it very big?
100 and something.
164, I believe.
And that included all Walpole and Norfolk?
And Norfolk.
If you wanted to have any extracurricular activities like cheerleading, field hockey, you took the train home, the 5 o'clock train home.
From Walpole
You
Center?
walked to the train in Walpole Center and took
Or
it to
Conley's bus
Conley's bus, right.
for 10 cents.
And then how did you get from the
Wow,
center
that's
of town? Where did it drop you off? You walked from the center of town?
Well, usually
Two.
we picked up.
If somebody,
But it was a problem at first for me because my mother didn't have a license.
Mm-hmm.
But she decided she had to get her license so that because my mother was a stay-at-home person, but we managed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for extra stuff, we used to take the train to Franklin on Saturdays to go to the movies.
Oh,
I remember that. I remember that it cost 12 cents.
wow.
12 cents to go
12
to the
cents.
movies?
Mhm. And then you could go to McCann's ice cream parlor afterwards and get a banana split for $0.25.
Wow.
3 kinds of ice cream.
that's when you could eat banana splits.
Yeah. That's right.
That's true.
But not now.
Now, Priscilla was the, where they let you off and onto the train. Is that still the same spot?
Yeah, still the same
okay.
spot.
Yeah.
And the bus, if you took Conley's bus, he would let you off right in the center there.
Okay.
There used to be a house there where the gas station is.
Mm-hmm.
And you could go in, Murphy.
Right.
Gert Murphy. She'd
Gert
let
Mur-
you go in and use her phone to call. But didn't do me any good. My mother didn't ever learn to drive. So if I wasn't with somebody, I walked.
My
Now, how
goodness.
far
Did a
was
lot of
that
walking in
for
those
you?
days.
Yeah.
Quite a ways. I lived down Populatic
Oh,
on
she had a
Priscilla
long walk.
Avenue.
Yeah.
Now,
And
what
when we
do you-
got the school bus on Myrtle Street, which was still quite a walk in the morning and in the afternoon.
Yeah.
No wonder you're such a good walker today.
Yeah.
You walk
She did a
everywhere
lot
with
of
your
walking.
husband,
Yeah.
so that you had good experience. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a long history together.
Oh, we
Oh,
do.
yeah.
In fact, you were in Vida's wedding,
Right, I was.
correct? You're a
Along with,
bridesmaid.
actually, the girl that is going out to lunch with us graduated with us also. She used to live in Populatic in, I don't know if you're familiar with that area, you turn down Leland Road, the first big house on the left
On the left.
is where her name was Barbara Humble, and Barbara Hill now. And,
We had lots of fun swimming in that pond.
oh, we did. Yeah.
I remember that.
Good
Is that how
times.
you spent your summers swimming or did you have to do any work during the summer, or was that not something that
It was
girls were
hard to
doing?
get a job because,
There wasn't a lot of work.
and there was no transportation.
Mm.
I can remember I worked in a drugstore in Walpole, and it was okay during the week, but on weekends it was tough because, then my parents had to be available to drive me. There was nothing in Norfolk.
There were no
Nothing
jobs.
in center or town
No, there were
besides
no jobs.
the train?
Kavanaugh's store opened,
Right, Kavanaugh's Drugstore.
but he ran it by himself. Well, I guess his wife did too.
Yeah.
She worked there, but
Marion.
yeah, no.
So the downtown area has changed quite a bit since.
I hardly recognize it.
Yes.
I hardly recognize it. I when I got to high school, I realized I wanted to be a nurse. So my father had a friend who had a position at Children's Hospital and got me a job. Well, now I had to get to Boston. So I walked from my house on 115 to 1A and took a bus
Wow.
from right at the Four Corners area, where the horse and carriages now,
Yeah.
to Boston, to Longwood Avenue.
Mhm.
And
That
then
was a long
I'd
time.
come back at night. I worked in the Central Supply area, it was called then, sterilizing, and that made me even want to go more into nursing. So it was a good experience, but we did a lot of walking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
That's
We
true.
did.
Good for you. Although,
I was just gonna say, it's,
And it was
yeah.
safe, let's say.
Yes.
Yes.
Which
Yeah,
now
safe.
you worry about that sort of thing, because walking down 115, there was all woods.
Right, no
Right.
sidewalks.
There's
Yeah,
no
no
sidewalks.
sidewalks, no anything.
no, there is on 115 some portions of it, but there's none on Myrtle Street or,
Now, do you remember, like, one of the things that happened in the center that you felt at the time, like, oh my gosh, this community is just really changing, or,
Well, with the building of the church,
The-
you know, and then,
The Federated Church.
yeah.
no,
and
the
then
Federated Church, the main part
was there, but
the
big
educational
addition,
building.
the educational building, and then we used to have there were band concerts there, I believe, right,
Yeah,
up
there
on the
was-
hill.
The fire department had a lot of activities up on the hill.
Yeah, up on the hill. There was a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
They had Fireman's Field Days every year with dog carriage parades and regular parades.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
really,
And they
really
had a
wonderful.
grease pole that,
Funny.
you know, everybody could climb and get.
Yeah.
I never climbed it, so I never knew what was on the top, but I think there was money. And they really were very active.
Mhm.
And the church was a very active part of the community.
Mhm.
Everything went on at the Federated Church.
Right.
And the Grange was very active.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
We used
do
to
you-
have plays in the Grange Hall. Remember?
We did.
Plays, and who put on the plays? Were
Oh.
they?
Our
Girl
eighth grade
Scouts
class
did,
and the
eighth
Girl
grade.
Scouts and Miss Day, Miss Olive Day, directed our plays.
She did.
Did she?
She did, and they were great. They were packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody went.
The other thing about the school that was interesting was what is the library now, and I guess the other building is like a historical building.
The little
The
red
tramp
house.
house.
The
Oh,
tramp
the tramp
house.
house.
Yeah.
That's where the tramp house is where we had cooking, home economics.
Oh.
Home economics?
Uh-huh. And the boys had manual training in where the library is. And we'd learn to cook and learn to sew. And then at the end of the season, we'd make a big dinner for the boys. And they'd come and we'd serve dinner.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. We had just, and we got out of school to walk over there, you know. It was just a wonderful experience.
Mhm.
And it was just always something going on, but that's what happened. That's
So your
what
whole
happened.
social life really revolved around, like, the church
In
and
the town.
And the
yeah,
school.
right,
And the
right.
school.
You didn't
And the
feel like
school,
you had to
yeah.
go a lot of other places.
No.
We did have, all the time we were in high school, which I always thought would have been nice if my kids had it, but they didn't. We had the youth center in the center of Walpole at Blackburn Memorial Hall.
Mhm.
And one of our parents would drive us and another one would pick us up. Nobody had a car then. Or a license, actually, till we were. And we'd go to youth center. Every Saturday night we
Every
went.
Saturday night.
And there was a
You wouldn't miss it.
No, and there was one Walpole policeman, Ted Delaney,
Right.
and he used to chaperone every Saturday night. And until I became a parent, I didn't realize what a commitment that was.
Yeah.
And he never missed.
No, I never missed
And
it.
did you have dances?
Did
Did-
dancing.
We had a
That's
band.
What, you had a band?
And a live band.
A live band,
Always a live band.
and one chaperone.
And oh my, that's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
And
It-
how many people would show up for the dance?
Oh, a lot.
A lot.
It was
And
packed.
there was never any problem.
No.
Ever. I never witnessed I guess you want to call it a fight or anything.
Yeah.
Never, ever.
Well, even though my kids don't believe it, when we were young, alcohol was not around or available.
No, nobody even thought about it.
We
No,
never
right.
had that in high school.
No, nobody even thought about it.
No. And I think that helped, everybody just got along.
Yeah.
No problems.
That's wonderful. Now, can you also tell us a little bit about the centennial celebration
Oh, that was
And-
wonderful.
in Norfolk and some of the activities that you had?
That was wonderful. That was,
Now, this had to be a fast forward, was it? I mean, we were talking just now about
Oh,
your school.
in the
School,
days.
50s,
mhm.
yeah. And
So
that
this
was
would
in
be-
1970
In 1970?
was the centennial.
And I was not living
Oh, yeah.
around here,
No.
but my parents were very much
Everybody
involved in
was
that. I was in
involved.
Connecticut then,
Yeah.
but everybody in town.
Alan Mackey was the one who spearheaded that whole thing, and he did a fabulous job. I was on the committee with him, and when Alan told you to do something at a meeting, you did it the very next day because he called you that afternoon when you got home from work and asked if you had done it. So you did it. But we had a parade that was, well, they closed off 1:15, the whole center. It was just Bill Wright. I don't know if you remember that name. He lived on Grove Street, had a big tree farm and regular farm. He ran the parade. Oh, we had bands from everywhere, all over Massachusetts.
Oh, my goodness.
It was wonderful. It was really
Now, how long did it take you to get ready for that event?
a year.
It did, yeah. So
Yeah.
you were working on that for quite a while.
And they had two organizations. They had the Centennial Bells, which was a women's organization. Everybody had costumes. Everybody made costumes from the oldest to the youngest little kids. And they had the Brothers of the Bush. Brothers of the Bush? I don't know. One or the other. Anyway, they all grew beards.
Oh, wow.
And
Fun.
everybody had a beard, yeah. Yeah, and they had, they used to have these raids at night, they'd go around and put toilet paper on people's trees and all that kind of stuff. I mean, these weren't kids either, these were
Adults.
adults who didn't always act like adults, yeah.
But I bet there was a real sense of camaraderie and community.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, when that was all
Yeah,
being
it was
planned.
really great.
And, yeah,
And they have a lot of pictures of that. Thelma Ravinsky has,
okay,
because I've seen them on the cable station.
yeah.
Yeah,
Very good.
I kept very much in touch with it,
yeah.
with my parents, and Alan Mackey, of course, was running it, and Alan's wife, Shirley, is my cousin.
Oh.
Okay.
My mother was a Ferris, but related to the Evanses, that big
Okay.
whole conclave.
Oh, yeah.
In Norfolk back then, everybody was.
Related.
Related to somebody?
I wasn't,
Evansville.
but
My husband always called it Evansville. Down where they are.
But we still have our little sections of town. This area is all Holmeses,
Yep.
and then there's an area that's all Cronins,
Right.
and Ravinskys, and
Evans.
Evanses,
The Evanses. I mean,
the Rays, and all those families are still, quite a few of them,
very much
still
part of
together.
Norfolk.
Yeah.
Stay close,
Really.
live close together and
Right, because I think one person owned the land and the families all built around there, built homes around there, and so they are. But John's related to, the Pitts and the Lucanses, and my daughter married an Evans, so there's a lot of relatives.
a lot of the
Yeah.
families that have
Right.
stayed here for a long time. That's
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah, only two of my children stayed. One is right next door there, and the other one is 2 houses down the street this way. But my nephew's on the top of the hill, and one's across the street, and his brother is up the street. And it's been fun, having so
Having
much
them close.
family.
So many
Yeah,
family
I wish they
members.
all had stayed around, but
Yeah.
they didn't.
I know. Is it- Now, can you tell us, Priscilla, about your connection with the Freeman School?
Yes. The Freeman School was renamed, I guess, right, Vida?
It was the center school.
It was a
Center
center
school.
school after my dad, who was chairman of the school committee for 37 years. And people say, or had said to me, well, you don't usually name a building after someone when they're still alive, but if you had given my father $1 million, it wouldn't have meant half as much as that. He always visited the schools. My dad had an insurance business in Boston, and then as he got older, he moved it out to Norfolk, to the house that we had been in. But he visited the schools, and he had an insurance business, and a lot of the people could not afford to pay him. So sometimes we'd find peck of potatoes on the doorstep, and he always made sure that everybody had what they needed. The youth of Norfolk was his love. And so when they decided to rename the school, I remember coming up, I was living in Connecticut then, and I remember coming up for the dedication, and I have never seen anybody so moved in their whole life. So it was, when I moved here, when I moved back here, they made a visit to me and asked me if I'd be interested in running the school committee. And I said, well, I don't think I'm really qualified. Just having 3 children doesn't really. And they said, well, I can see you have just as much an interest as your dad did. So I was on the school committee I filled in an unexpired term, and then I was on for 3 years.
Amazing. And during those 3 years, was there anything that you remember that was
A change?
a change or kind of interesting how it all developed, or was it just pretty much?
I remember negotiations.
Oh, of course.
That's the thing I
I
remember.
think negotiations are always remembered.
And I remember sitting one night at a meeting and thinking, oh, I wonder what my father is thinking up there now, because there was not a teachers union, of course, the whole time he was here. But it was a very, very pleasant experience, and it was a big learning experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
But Frank Gross was chairman of the school committee then.
He served many years too.
Yeah,
He served
and he served many years.
21 years.
21 years.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was just an amazing experience, because outreach is kind of my passion, and I was able to do that. Yeah, it was a good experience.
Very nice experience.
Now, I just wanted to mention too that when your father was on the school committee, that your mother-in-law was also on the school committee,
Right,
Eva Holmes.
right. She was on for probably 30-something years.
Yeah, she was on
About
for
the
a
same
long time.
Because I know she was on the school committee when I moved to Norfolk, and she was on till, she was on a while, I think, after your father, wasn't she?
I'm not
I
quite sure.
can't remember. And Harry Coulter, who his daughter was another friend of ours that grew up with us, and
a
the
close
3 of
friend.
them were on the school committee. And I remember at our high school graduation, they allowed John's mother and Priscilla's father and Mr. Coulter to give their children
Our
their diplomas.
Oh,
I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very nice.
So I just wanted to remind everybody that the Eva Holmes their courtyard at the H. Olive Day School was named for her,
Right.
for her dedication, years of service.
She was a school teacher, although
Mhm.
I'm not sure how much she taught, because she went to school in Maine,
Mhm.
and then she moved to Norfolk, to Franklin, and met my father-in-law and got married. And I don't know that they, that she ever really taught school, but she loved school.
Mhm.
And she was a great teacher. She taught me a lot.
Didn't she used to substitute teach some
I think she did
in
substitute.
the schools?
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yes.
So when did the homes first start in Norfolk? Was it with your in-laws at that age?
My
that they came?
father-in-law was born
In Norfolk.
as was my husband, of course, and their family. And his mother was born, John's grandmother was born in Norfolk.
Oh my
wow.
goodness.
And they lived in that house across the street all that time.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, he was an old Norfolk family.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And he had a great interest in the town also. You know, both my in-laws were very active. And my own parents were, my mother wasn't active in the community. She was very active in the church. But my dad was superintendent of streets in Norfolk
Oh.
for many years
Mhm.
after we moved here.
So,
So was that his job? That
That was
became
his
his
job.
job? Okay.
Superintendent.
Mhm. That's what they called it then.
They're very active in the Grange, too.
Yeah, they were active in the Grange.
That was another interesting thing.
Yeah.
The library was in the back of the Grange Hall
Oh,
when we
really?
were children.
Oh my.
And we'd go there, and then you had a little card, and you'd look in the card and make sure you hadn't read that book, because your name would be on it. Remember that?
Yeah.
And
And if the library wasn't open, you could go back to her house.
how she lived in back of it.
She lived
She
in
in the
the
back, you
Uh-huh.
could go to her
I'm trying
house.
Oh,
to-
yeah. We
What
went
was
to her
her
house a
name?
lot.
Why can't I
Mrs.
remember?
McClure.
Mrs. McClure.
I'll never forget it.
Wow.
Sometimes she was a little grouchy, we felt, when we were kids, but she really loved that, and she made sure we read the right books.
Mhm.
And we'd go and get I'd go, I remember my mother and Mrs. Coulter, because she drove, Mrs. Coulter drove, our friend, and we'd get 10 books at a time.
And they had that many that
They-
you could turn
It was
over
a-
that much?
It was pretty well equipped.
It was.
Mhm.
Yeah, there were
Yeah.
a lot of books
It
there.
was just one room.
Yeah, yeah.
It was right in the back. You drove in alongside the Grange, and it was the
She
highlight
probably-
of your week.
Yeah.
Really?
To go to the library.
Yeah.
She probably kept some books in her house too,
Yeah, I think she did.
because I know we could go back there if she wasn't working,
Mhm.
and she'd give us books.
It was her
Her passion.
Her passion,
It
right?
was, yeah.
And it started so young with me, and I still read
You're s- are we-
3 and 4 books a week.
Wow.
That's
Good for
wonderful.
you, wow.
And you can attribute it to that wonderful
No, I
librarian.
can. I really can. I remember so well. And then when I lived in Walpole, I used to be able to walk to the library. Continued. And all my children,
Are good readers
they're
also.
very good readers. And I learn about books from them now to read.
Right.
Chatham has a very wonderful library too. So
That's good.
So the little schoolhouse that's down at the library, is that, do you know, was that the schoolhouse?
It was a firehouse originally,
Oh, it was a firehouse.
way back, and then the fire siren that they used to blow to get the call firemen there
Mhm.
was in the cupola, or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
on top there.
and 12 o'clock.
Yeah, they blew it every day at 12 o'clock, and then when there was a fire, and you used to have to count,
Yeah.
like, they'd blow it so many times for one area of town, and so many times for another.
Was it mostly a volunteer
It was
fire?
all volunteer.
All
My
volunteer?
father was a volunteer fireman.
My
and there's a
husband was a
funny-
volunteer fireman.
There's a funny story about that. My brother, I had 2 older brothers, and my brother used to mow lawns in Norfolk. And he was mowing a lawn one day on Main Street. It used to be the Foster's home. I don't know who lives there now.
I don't either.
And it was up from the firehouse, so he was through mowing the lawn, so he got on his bicycle to ride home. And he stopped at the firehouse because they used to write on the board where the fire was, because some of the people would arrive a little bit later. And he saw Freeman, and he got on his bike and rode like mad. And my father had been burning the field, and it sort of got away from him.
Oh,
Oh
dear.
my.
So we had a lot of history with it.
Mm.
The fire department, my father always answered any fire that he could.
That was
So-
the fire department had a woman's, when John was on the fire department.
Right.
They had a woman's auxiliary. And we used to run dances
And
and
bean suppers.
bean suppers and everything.
And now where were those held?
Grange Hall,
Grange
probably.
Hall. Yeah.
Grange Hall had everything.
Yeah, that's
The dances
wow.
were held at the Legion.
Yeah,
Okay.
Lehan, right.
Okay.
But the bean suppers were at the Grange Hall.
Grange Hall was a great hub for things.
But it was, I don't think they have any. Actually, the police used to have a women's auxiliary also.
Mhm.
But I don't think they have any of that anymore. Everything's gotten too technical.
Fast.
Yeah, everybody moves
Busy.
too fast.
It's, yeah.
Well, there's such a wonderful sense of community. Just listening to your stories,
Yeah.
there's such a wonderful sense of community that you share and experienced with other people, and I think that's always so important.
And even when my children were growing up, with all their activities like Little League and hockey, we always, the parents, we ran every Little League opening day. There was a dance at the Legion that night, and we made good money on it.
Mhm.
But everybody brought something to eat. We didn't cater anything, and the same with all the hockey. As opposed to now, everything's so fast. They just hire a place, and it's also more expensive.
The church did a lot. So the Veteran Church did a lot.
They used to have couples club, and it was, every organization was very active, and there was a lot of camaraderie in all those organizations.
But what would you say the town population was back then?
When I moved here in 1949, I think it was only about 4,000.
And you knew everybody, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you went
You
downtown
did. You know
or
everybody.
any place you met somebody, you knew who they were.
And downtown, there was only the Federated Church, the school.
Mhm.
And then Mr. Kavanaugh opened that store, but that was
But before that, there was,
Man's
before
store.
Vida came,
Yeah.
there was Man's store.
Man's store?
Man's, M-A-N-N-S. And that's where
Country Crossing is
Country
now.
Crossing is now. There was a big house, and down below there was this
You must
store.
remember the house, because then it was a Catholic church.
Oh, okay, okay.
That
I
was
do.
Man's house.
And it
Yes.
it was a typical country store. He cut meat, and he had the big blocks of cheese. But the best thing was, on the right as you walked in, was the penny candy
I was
case.
just gonna
The old
say,
case.
the penny candy.
So we used
Everybody
to,
had penny candy.
everybody would have some money to go, there. And at recess time, at lunch time, not recess, you could walk and there would be a crossing guard right there.
Oh.
And by grade, you'd go over and you could get your candy. And they would help you come back and walk back by the Federated Church and go into school.
Now, you didn't have lunch at school, you were,
We
did you
brought
go
our
home?
lunch.
You brought your lunch.
We brought our lunch, right.
So you didn't go home for lunch?
You didn't go home, but you,
No,
you,
nobody went home.
No.
you stayed in the classroom. and
Not
had
unless you
your-
were walking distance. We did have a friend,
Ruthian?
Ruthian Smith. Ruthian? What was Ruthian's last name?
Kavanaugh? No.
No, that was Ian
Ruthian?
Kavanaugh. Yeah,
Ruthian Smith.
yeah, Smith, right. And she went home.
So you had like a whole hour for lunch?
hmm
Yeah.
And we ate and then went out in the playground.
Fine.
No matter what the weather was, we went out in the playground. We used to slide down that hill in the back. And we'd have little saucers, and somebody would have recess duty, a teacher, and we'd spend it in the bed, and then in the good weather we'd play softball.
Mm-hmm.
So really, lunch would be probably even longer than maybe an hour, probably by the time
was
you
an hour.
ate in, and it was just an hour.
And they'd ring the bell.
What a difference
I can remember them
today.
standing out there ringing the bell for us to come in.
Today, I think they get, 20 minutes or something of that
We
sort.
did have a whole hour, I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So what time would you have school start, and what time would school?
School started at, I think, 8:30, and lunch was from 12 to 1.
And then school was out at 3?
3. 3:15, I think, actually.
And so
And the school buses, 2 school buses.
And so you went from first grade, probably not kindergarten.
There was no kindergarten.
No
I
kindergarten.
never went to kindergarten.
Right, first grade to eighth.
In
there,
that school.
In that school.
Well, in 5th grade, we went up to the City Mill School.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't it 4th and 5th? I think
Yeah,
John
it
said he
was
went
4th.
there
And, yeah, it
2
was
years.
4th and 5th. But we had one teacher for 2 grades,
Mrs. McBride.
Mrs. McBride. And the auditorium in the school, in the Freeman School, is the McBride
Oh,
Auditorium.
yes,
yes.
no,
Oh,
no, it all
okay.
makes sense.
Mm.
So she must have taught for quite a while in the school system.
And she was a principal up in the City Mill School.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She was a great lady.
Yeah. So back to Miss Day. She was your teacher?
She was.
And then she
Was
became
she
the
just out of school or something? I
Was she?
can't imagine.
When I
Yeah,
moved
she
here,
probably
she
was.
was. I only had her for Girl Scouts, but because
I had her for 2nd and 3rd, and 2nd and 3rd, and then I had Mrs. McBride for 5th. I don't remember who I had for 4th.
Mr. Washburn, probably someplace.
Yeah, and then I had Mr. Washburn.
And
When-
that's another name.
Yeah.
Second is
Is that a name?
Washburn.
Washburn Hall down at the. That's in the Freeman School.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He was great. We used to call him Pop.
Up
He
Washburn.
didn't mind. Pop Washburn. And he was great. Yeah.
And he taught Girl Scouts too. We got our weather badge from him.
Yeah, he used to teach different badges.
We
And
had-
what did you have to do, Vida, for that
I
weather
can't
badge?
even remember.
I can't either.
Right, you had to go out and report on the temperature,
Right.
right?
But you know, in my attic somewhere, I have that.
That's sad.
Sash with all
Full
your
of
badges
badges.
on it.
Yeah,
That's why I have so
had
much
one of those
stuff
too.
I'm throwing away.
I also have a pin from Sunday school for perfect attendance.
I have a whole those pins they used to latch
Sunday
one onto
school was
another
wonderful.
From Sunday school.
We had a choir
Yep.
that we went to. Sunday school was a wonderful place. There was never any problem with going. I mean,
Still
some
kind of
people used to.
in our church. I think the kids enjoy Sunday school.
Yeah,
Even the older ones, like Kelsey does.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
I thought that might be Barbara. That's why I said that. Is it? No, I
Yeah,
thought
it
it
is
might be Barbara.
Yeah.
And I was going to introduce you to her.
Oh, okay. We could interview her too.
Yeah.
You know, we could add
No,
her to
but
our
I don't know.
interview.
She went to schools longer than you did.
Yeah. Yeah, because she lived there before I came.
She's probably better on dates than we are too.
Well, before we close with our discussion, we'd like to know about your families as far as you have how many children?
I have 3 daughters.
3 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And,
They're all married, and I have 6 grandchildren.
and you have 6 grandchildren. And
Mhm.
your daughters are living in where?
My oldest daughter lives in Boston, teaches school in Boston. And my middle daughter lives in Ithaca, New York. She's a fundraiser for Cornell University. And my youngest daughter lives in Westwood.
Very
So I get to see her quite a bit. They each have 2 children.
Very nice. And Vida, I know you've mentioned your children, but
I have 4 children.
mm-hmm.
My oldest daughter, as I told you, married Jeffrey Evans, who also grew up in Norfolk. And they now live in Quakertown, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And they have 4 children, 2 biological and 2 adopted. And then my son lives right next door. He works for the bus company. And he does not have children. He married a girl from Plainville, who was my oldest daughter's best friend during high school. That was
Isn't that a
interesting.
great connection?
And then my next daughter is married, and she's gone back to school to get her master's. She teaches special ed, and she lives next door. She has 3 children. And then my youngest daughter is a nurse, and she lives in San Diego, and she is married, but she also has no children. So I have 7 grandchildren, and our oldest grandson just got engaged, so maybe sometime I'll be a great-grandmother.
That'll be exciting.
That will be exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Well, we can't thank you enough for
Oh, you're welcome.
letting us interview you for National Women's History
Oh,
Week.
that's going to be
And
fantastic.
it is, and we just knew that both of you would have such wonderful stories to tell and to share with the community. And also, I knew Vida would definitely, because I have worked with Vida at the
The
polls,
polls.
and she knows everybody that walks in through that door.
I worked at the polls
No,
when
And
I
I
lived
know, I
here.
bet you did.
I did. I
bet
did.
you did.
That
It's
was a
fun.
wonderful experience too.
Yeah,
It's fun. I
It
enjoy
is.
it.
It's a
Boring
very-
sometimes.
boring sometimes, but most of the time
Oh, I
it's
didn't
fun.
find it. I
Yeah.
thought it wonderful.
Well,
And I
primaries
still-
are boring.
Yeah,
Nobody
primaries
shows
are very-
up.
Nobody
Nobody
shows up,
shows
and
up.
so then we can't talk.
Yeah.
I still
Please
keep
vote.
my connection back here every June. I
Mhm.
come back to the graduation, the 6th grade graduation,
Oh, wonderful.
and present a little scholarship in my dad's name.
Oh, how wonderful.
And I will do it as long as I can. And after that, I hope my children will
We'll
do
do
it.
it. Sure.
So that will be.
And Priscilla came all the way up from Chatham, so we're very thankful
Oh, it's not that
that
bad.
she came up for
We
this.
live on an island now, though. I'm really realizing now with the bridge in disrepair.
That's true. That is true. Well, we thank you both.
Oh,
Your
well, our
stories were
pleasure.
wonderful to share.
Anytime. It was fun.
And Vida, thank you for letting us use your beautiful antique home. There's so many
You're
things
welcome.
in here that we could spend time talking about, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.